The only way to break the curse is to eat a stooling baby's poo.
Tessie was fast asleep when her husband, Emeka, tapped her awake. Dawn had already broken, and he was preparing to leave for work. Throughout the night, his thoughts had circled endlessly around their childlessness, and the way she slept so peacefully, as though it were nothing to worry about. Her careless calm over the issue had dragged their marriage through more than 5 years without a child. Worse still, her attitude had begun to turn public opinion against him. People were starting to whisper that perhaps the problem was his, that he was impotent. She stirred, surprised that morning had come so quickly, stretching lazily as she realized she had overslept. Almost immediately, she remembered her duties and felt the need to explain that if she had been awakened earlier, she would have prepared breakfast for him. Emeka, already irritated, reminded her sharply that ever since she had chased her niece out of the house, she seemed to be searching for someone else to wake her up and help her fulfill her responsibilities as a wife. He made it clear that he could not bring himself to eat food prepared by her maids. After all, there had once been someone in the house who cooked and whom he ate from, until Tessie's harsh treatment drove the girl away and forced her mother to come and take her back home. Confused and defensive, Tessie wondered inwardly why he had woken her up only to confront her so early in the morning. She told him if this was breakfast on bed he was serving her. But Emeka had not come for explanations. In his anger, he warned her to stop being so indifferent about their childlessness, hinting darkly that if she continued this way, the next thing he would serve her would not be breakfast, but divorce. With that, he walked out of the room toward the door, leaving Tessie frozen on the bed, stunned and shaken by the weight of his words. Her husband had never complained about their childlessness. Not once. And now that he had started, divorce was already standing between them. The suddenness frightened her. Had he gotten another woman pregnant? Why was he so certain that she was the reason their home had remained silent for so long? The questions tormented her thoughts. Fear pushed her to act quickly. Before the threat could turn into public shame, she decided to reach out to her friend. Her marriage was slipping, and she needed a solution fast. Her friend responded with irritation at first, offended by the urgency, but once Tessie explained that her husband had threatened divorce, the mood shifted. She reminded Tessie how she had once doubted the same woman who ended her own 10 years of barrenness. She recalled, almost proudly, how nearly every woman she had referred, 9 out of 10, had conceived. Now, the same story Tessie had dismissed had become her last hope. Swallowing her pride, Tessie pleaded. Her friend refused to take her personally, but agreed to give her the woman's number. She instructed Tessie to attend a church service first and meet the woman afterward. Tessie obeyed. She went to the church, stayed through the service, and afterward met the woman. The woman prayed for her and gave her treatment meant to prepare her womb for pregnancy. After examining her, she confirmed that Tessie's body was ready. Hope surged through her. Without wasting time, Tessie hurried home and persuaded her fed-up husband to lay with her. After 2 months nothing showed, she called the woman and asked her why she had deceived her and taken money from her. The woman laughed and asked her to come over. She quickly drove down and planned to confront the woman. But when she got there she saw another pregnant woman that came for prayer. She called out one of the pregnant sisters and asked her if the woman was genuine. The lady smiled and nodded, told her the woman was genuine and had nurtured her until she got pregnant. The woman explained as she walked away that the healer understood herbs, understood the human body even more than a certified gynecologist, and could treat any kind of infection no matter how severe or how long it had existed. After the treatment, she would pray. Problems were handled both spiritually and medically. To her, it was obvious, some problems were bigger than human understanding. Tessie thought deeply about this, yet her heart remained unsettled. Something still felt unfinished. With no other option, She returned into the fellowship and joined in the prayers. Then it happened. A young man approached her suddenly and confronted her with a question that froze her blood, asking if she could remember what she did to a child 7 years ago. Confused and shaken, Tessie denied it in her heart. She knew she had never had a child and had never committed an abortion. The accusation made no sense to her. Without another word or explanation, the prophet turned away and continued ministering to someone else, completely ignoring her. Tessie slowly walked back to her seat. Every part of her wanted to grab her bag and leave immediately, but she restrained herself. Walking out would make it seem as though she was angry, or worse, guilty. She stayed until the program finally ended. The moment it was over, she rushed out of the church, careful to avoid the woman before she could approach her. That evening, when her husband returned home, his anger was unmistakable. He confronted her immediately, repeating the same disturbing question about what she had done to a child 7 years earlier. He made it clear that someone from the church had recognized her, and relayed the incident to him, emphasizing that their popularity made it impossible for them to go unnoticed anywhere. Tessie was stunned. The realization that the encounter had been reported in such detail unsettled her deeply. In her frustration, she convinced herself that her so-called friend must have been responsible. Her husband explained that his anger at first had been directed at her friends, who had never encouraged her to do anything about their childlessness. Still, he admitted that one of them had finally pointed her in the right direction. He confessed that he was not a deeply spiritual or religious person, but the situation had grown beyond logic and pride. According to him, even Solomon, her husband's driver, had been in that same church, not by choice, but because his wife had forced him to attend. Tessie was shocked. She hadn't noticed Solomon at all. Her husband pointed out that Solomon had claimed to greet her, but she had ignored him. He accused her of acting distant and proud simply because she had a wealthy husband, saying he had never believed such things about her until now. Overwhelmed, Tessie felt insulted and misunderstood. While she denied being arrogant, she admitted that her mind had been elsewhere. She had been lost in her thoughts, still shaken by the divorce threat hanging over her marriage. The weight of it broke her, and she burst into tears. Her husband paused. He could not stand the sight of her crying. His anger softened, and he drew her into his arms, comforting her gently. After calming her, he returned to the troubling question, whether she could remember doing anything to a child in the past. Tessie couldn't. She truly couldn't. The denial came with sobs. He reassured her and encouraged her to take her time, explaining that once the source of a problem was uncovered, a solution would surely follow. Months passed, and life gradually returned to a calmer rhythm. Tessie relaxed again, almost convincing herself that the troubling incident had faded into the past. Then one day she and her husband attended the naming ceremony of Solomon's child. That was when she saw her. The woman of God was there. Panic surged through Tessie. She tried to avoid her, shifting and dodging, hoping not to be noticed. But her husband was observant. He saw the way his wife stiffened, the way she wished the ground would open and swallow her as the woman began walking toward them. Without hesitation, he stood up and warmly welcomed the woman. He had never met her before, but in that moment he understood clearly, anyone his wife feared that deeply was not a stranger to her past. The woman of God greeted Tessie's husband warmly and welcomed him, expressing gratitude for his presence at his driver's child's naming ceremony, and for the significant role he had played in it. She praised him, noting that not every employer would show such kindness, and described him as a good man. He responded humbly, explaining that whenever God grants people the grace to do good to their neighbors, refusing to act on it would amount to disobedience to God's word. The woman of God observed that for someone who did not present himself as deeply religious, he spoke like a man who understood God's will and human purpose. She openly stated her surprise that he recognized her, adding confidently that his wife must not have told him about her. She pointed out that Tessie had clearly tried to avoid her moments earlier. Tessie, visibly shaken, denied the accusation, her words stumbling over themselves. The woman of God corrected her firmly, insisting that she had indeed tried to avoid her. Still, she reassured Tessie that she meant her no harm. She pointed to Tessie's husband's driver as an example of someone God had shown mercy to through their ministry. She added that Tessie should have stayed back during the fellowship to hear what the young prophet had wanted to tell her. Tessie dismissed the claim inwardly, believing the young man had nothing more to say. She reflected bitterly on how the incident had nearly destroyed her marriage, and felt such matters should never be addressed publicly. She wished the young man could be called so the issue could be discussed privately. The woman of God explained that the young man had already traveled out of the country. She clarified that he was not her prophet, and that she had never known him to be one. According to her, he himself had never believed he was a prophet. She revealed that it was his aunt who had brought him to the fellowship that day, and had even testified that he had never prophesied before. The young man had simply insisted on following her to the fellowship. With unwavering confidence, the woman of God concluded that when God intends to save someone, he may use an unexpected person to reveal secrets that could never be exposed by another. She emphasized that there were secrets hidden in high places, secrets known only to God. Her husband was so angry that he just walked away after hearing that. She followed him, leaving the prophetess. The woman walked away. As she resumed greeting other people, her husband suddenly stops and faces her, trying his best to not be too loud.
We need to find out what you may have done to a child over 7 years now. And I am afraid we have to go see that woman's child that people claim she is special. She sees the beyond.
I will not go to that ghetto area to meet any weirdo. No way. What will people think of me?
Then no problem. I'll marry a second wife. You for love and her for my kids. Who knows? She might get all the love too.
He said as he entered the car. She hurried around the car, desperate to get inside, and the moment she did, she broke down in tears again. Her husband reacted sharply. He accused her of repeating the same behavior over and over, telling her that each time she cried like that, it tore at his heart. But this time his patience snapped. Though he affirmed his love for her, he made it clear that her tears had begun to irritate him deeply. Tessie froze. She had never seen such fire in her husband's eyes before. The intensity stunned her into silence. In that moment, she knew resistance was pointless. It was time to give in to what he wanted. She adjusted herself in her seat and remained quiet throughout the journey home. Her mind raced with thoughts, weighing consequences and fears. She knew her husband did not make empty threats, and he never repeated a demand twice. By the end of the drive, she made up her mind. She accepted defeat inwardly and resolved to go along with him. Her husband, now calm and distant, instructed her to prepare herself for the next morning. They would go there together. Silence filled the car as the decision settled heavily between them. Deep down inside Tessie, she knew her secrets were about to be revealed. Her heart dropped severely. Morning seemed to come earlier than she expected. Her fears was just around the secret she has carried for 7 years.
Thanks for watching. We've got other episodes of parafictions and fictions that you wouldn't want to miss. Kindly help us grow by clicking on your subscribe button, like, comment, and share. Next episode, loading.